Well, there are two crucial dates in Pakistan's political calendar. One are the general elections and the other is the general selection. And now that the latter is done and the former, the election, does not seem to be on the horizon as soon as Khan Saab would like, yeah, we can absolutely examine what this appointment means for Khan Saab. I mean, as per the question, I wouldn't. It's certainly true that General Munir was not Imran Khan's top choice, to say the least, but I would hesitate to say that his appointment would be bad news for Khan, because what we're going to see right now is, in my opinion, something of a cooling off period in which all the various players and all the sides look at each other for signs, whether of confrontation or whether of a thaw. A lot of this is going to become clear once Imran Khan actually arrives in Rawalpindi and we see what sort of tone he takes and what sort of rhetoric he adopts. As far as the rhetoric goes, I think that there has been a considerable cooling in the political temperatures that he raised in his speeches in the past. If you juxtapose them with his more recent statements, I think that there's been a tapering off, and that is possibly to give the incoming army chief some time to sort of gauge the situation. There won't be much time because things are still politically incredibly volatile. But at this point in time, I don't personally see either side making any dramatic moves. And as far as how long the cooling off period goes, well, that could be anything from a week to a couple of months. Up until the summary was actually signed by President Alvi, there was very heated speculation as to whether the president, undoubtedly at Imran Khan's urging, would use some legal or constitutional device to delay the appointment and thus, making sure that General Munir retires and is no longer eligible. As to what happened, why did he sign it? Well, there's a couple of different theories in it. One, yesterday Khan Saab said that he was going to the president was going to consult with him. Now, you could look at that, and many are, and certainly the Imran Khan's opposition is saying this, that this was a last-minute attempt to increase his relevance in a process in which, frankly, he had no legal or constitutional say. So it was a bit of an afterthought. Sort of added to this theory is that Khan Saab did, in fact, want it to be delayed. And perhaps consulted with his legal experts as to whether this would be possible, but was told that, doing this would not necessarily be a smart move, would create unnecessary tensions. And given that President Alvi has, as we know, it's an open secret, been playing the role of a, well, I wouldn't say mediator, but at least a bridge between Khan and the establishment over the past couple months, it's possible also that the president wasn't willing to go off on a limb on this. There is, of course, a third possibility, and that's the one that I lean towards, and that is that, look, up until now, Khan's rhetoric, Mir Jafar, Mir Sadiq, and so on and so forth, has been largely directed at the former Chief of Army Staff Bajwa, and those that he claims within the military establishment were on Bajwa's side. Now, just to take a look at how the rhetoric has changed, right? We start from neutrals, we start from Khalid bin Walid, Mir Jafar, Mir Sadiq, because according to Khan, they were part of a American conspiracy to topple his government, regime change, blah, blah, blah. But very recently, Khan then goes and says, okay, so even if we accept that the establishment didn't conspire against me, they could have stopped these guys, meaning Nawaz Sharif and Zardari. That's a bit of a come down. Secondly, again, he started out by saying that, how can these people appoint the army chief? They're going to appoint someone who will clear the way for them and it should be on merit, and so on and so forth. But now, quite recently, he said that, well, I don't really care who the army chief is. So I think that was reality setting in, A. And B, that if he were, even if he wanted to, if he were to try and delay disrupt the appointment of General Munir, then it would no longer be a battle between him and the former Chief of Army Staff, General Bajwa, but now it would be a battle between him and the entire military leadership. So I think that is perhaps one reason that there was a slight pullback there. And the appointment has gone ahead because now, again, as I said earlier, each side is going to kind of suss each other out. And I hate to resort to cliches, but only time will tell. And a lot of it depends on, of course, the actions of the new army chief. There is a historical pattern that we should be cognizant of. At the end of the Musharraf era, right, the army had come under a great deal of criticism. I mean, across the political divide, I think civil society, everyone was on one page. Then comes in Kayani, okay, who puts in place what you may call a tactical retreat from overt interference in politics. So this sort of historical pattern of pushing forward and then pulling back when one's image has been damaged, we have seen this. So again, this ties in with what I was saying, is that there's going to be a cooling off period. Every single statement, every single gesture and every single move is going to now be carefully analyzed to see whether, as the outgoing Chief of Army Staff said, the army has actually decided to quit its interference in politics. I mean, if the question is that will this actually happen, again, we will have to see, right? Okay, so I will have to admit that what Chief of Army Staff, outgoing Chief of Army Staff Bajwa said as to the reason for the army's, for criticism of the army in Pakistan, he very clearly said that, it's a history of 70 years of political interference, which he also said was unconstitutional. That's significant. But again, and even if we say that the new army chief wants to end the army's involvement in politics, we have to realize that this is not like flipping a light switch, right? You're looking at a system that has grown or mutated, however you want to put it, over decades, right? So there's one thing to sort of take the army out of politics. How do you take the politicians out of their own desire to interfere or to have interference on their behalf? So we're going to be looking at certain triggers, okay? We're going to be looking at how smaller coalition partners behave, because those are the ones who have historically sort of been easily maneuvered, let's say pressurized or whatever, by the establishment. So when the next vote comes up, if suddenly there are calls being made to vote a certain way or not vote a certain way, that's going to be an indicator. And secondly, I think the biggest indicator will be that when, for example, certain policies are put in place, let's say economic policies, that directly affect the army's own footprint and interests, then you will have to see how far we can take this promise.